Welcome to the Improviding Life podcast. This is Lloyd Crawford, your host, and we are going to hear birds attack each other and explore how life can be more livable by just having a moment where I acknowledge what felt like a very unlivable moment last week, and sort of how I got through that. And I'm really curious after you hear this to have any feedback on whether you've had any of these moments and whether you want to add anything to the conversation on how you navigate it and make room and space for life to become more livable. So a few days ago, I was so excited to make some rice and beans for dinner, as the side dishes, but for me more like the entrees. I'm a big side person, so I could just live off the sides, right? So I'm making these beans, and then I get nap trap, so the baby's sleeping on me, and so I ask my husband to add more liquid to the beans, and he does, but he didn't hear the part where I also asked him to turn the temperature down, and he also didn't add enough liquid, which again, I understand he's not a bean cooker, so he's did not know these things. And so for me trying to whisper, ask for help while baby's sleeping on me, the help was offered, and that happened, right? So he's out running errands or picking something up that he needed to get. And so right as he's about to come in the house, I start smelling something burning. I'm like, oh, fuck, the beans, right? And so he comes in. I'm just like, hey, did you turn that burner off or turn it down to low? And he's like, no, I didn't. Was I supposed to? I'm like, yes, but okay, cool. This is where we go, right? So the beans are burnt, right? And then baby wakes up a little bit later, so I go and make the rice. And I was like, you know what? She tried brown rice at this restaurant a couple weeks ago and liked it. I'm going to mix some brown rice with the white rice and cook that. Totally fucking forgetting they have totally different cooking times and textures and all things. So needless to say, I fucked up the rice horribly. I've never fucked up rice in my life like that, ever, because the white rice was too cooked. The brown rice was still somehow undercooked. And even though I added all the things to make it really flavorful, it just was not. And it's just sad. It was just sad, gloopy sadness. And so I fucked up all of dinner. Were the parts that I was excited about, right? And I have this term that I call food travesties, right? And it is just something where it just feels so unforgivable about when you just mess up food or something that just doesn't work out the way you want it. And I get so let down when food travesties happen, so let down, right? And I'm just oh, my name is in calories, or in calories or calories, right? I'm just so food centric, and so food travesties just really can derail and wreck my week. So I was just so sad because all I wanted was rice and beans, and what I messed up the most were the rice and beans, right? The meat that I cooked for my husband, that turned out just fine, and how he likes it and everything. And so it was that moment where I didn't feel I had access to the meal that I wanted. And so the rest of that evening really just acknowledging how unsatiated I felt and just frustrated, right? So the next day then was payday, woohoo, and really unplannedly my husband and the baby and I, we all found ourselves going on this grand date of food adventures. Places we hadn't eaten before, hadn't been for a long time. Everything was so good. And then we get to the one place where they have cinnamon rolls and cookie dough and cookies, essentially some baked goods that I can eat and our daughter with food allergies can eat. And it's pretty hard to find places that have things we can eat with our allergies and that don't taste like shit. And so you happen to find one. And so we go and he's like, do you have anything you're celebrating lately? And I'm just well, yeah, I just launched a Shifter Society. And I had 2 more people ask if they could join this week, even though doors closed. And I very happily welcome them because our corals haven't started yet. And so, yeah, I'm celebrating that. So he's okay, we'll get whatever you want. Man, this bitch here, I got I was okay, this should be enough shit for the whole weekend. It lasted a day and a half. So that's pretty good for me instead of 3 days. But we got a few things to try. I'm just so excited. And we had a really great dinner in Mercury. Baby was just loving life, hanging out at a restaurant, which she doesn't really get to go to often, and so it was just a really great fucking day. The exact opposite feeling of a food travesty day, and I was just buzzing and high and giddy and laughing and everything. I just felt so restored and replenished, right? And so I'm still reflecting on this, that was 2 days ago, of how night and day, sort of 180 of a switch that felt from one day to the next. And so I got really curious. I'm asking myself, okay, so what really went into that experience of being able to feel like I had like a pick-me-up after feeling really let down. And so this idea of looking at how to actually have those like perkier moments, right? Or have a pick-me-up really after being let down. And so the first part that came through that I want to share with you is really the acknowledgement that like allowing yourself to put words to and acknowledge and name how truly let down and disappointed you are. And with that comes holding the space for like, you probably have felt that type of letdown in the past and other people told you weren't allowed to, right? And this has me like reflecting back to how I realized I hadn't really ever learned how to grieve anything growing up. I wasn't allowed to grieve because the things that I wanted to grieve were things that people told me were insignificant. And so that really got me fucked up, right? Because I didn't then have the processing skills of acknowledging like, oh shit, there are things that are really weighing on me that I need to grieve, right? So that first step and the first practice is really allowing yourself the space, the time, the words, the frowny faces, the growling at yourself in the mirror, the whatever your process is, to acknowledge that you are feeling let down. The second part is a part of a practice that I practice called an emotional staircase, or the emotional staircase, because I also use emojis to convey this point, but acknowledging, okay, if I am feeling at a certain emotional state, what like emoji face or what emotional languaging would I put to describe where I feel? So in this case, it was that feeling of letdown or really feeling of defeat where I was like, nothing is going right now. I had this idea to have this like beautiful dinner and those things weren't happening. And I just was so excited, right? So letting those words come out and then asking myself, what would just like one step up from that be, right? So from feeling defeated, for me, what was one stair step above that was being really like aware. Like, I know it's not an emotional word, but I just felt like curious and aware because I was curious and like, okay, so what actually could have changed in the future? Oh, if I didn't feel like I could speak loudly to convey something to my husband so would not wake up the baby, then I could have like texted him, right, and been more clear on to add 2 cups of water to the beans, not just 1. Just being that curiosity. So from defeat became this space of curiosity of, well, what really happened in the situation and what could have shifted, right? So that's that second practice of being curious of like, instead of telling myself, oh, well, I had to snap out of it, just what might be the next accessible step. And then the third part that really came through was, when the next day started, actually like feeling the energy switch, noticing that while my mind could have very easily said, oh no, we're sad about this, you have to still be upset about, this letdown, noticing that as the day actually progressed and we were going out and trying, the new food and everything was good and like all the surprises of, essentially being like, you're on a shopping spree at a bakery, like I always want that, like how exciting. Actually allowing myself to feel that my energy and my body and like my mannerisms and my personality really felt like that was having ease, coming to the surface, and then allowing the perception and awareness of like how I was experiencing that follow suit, right? So really this is like, as your body, your energy is starting to shift, just being able to notice like, oh, okay, my thoughts might still want to go back to, oh, well, you should still be upset about yesterday. And noticing and having the way to check in and be like, well, actually, is that how I'm feeling emotionally or physically or spiritually, right? Or is this my brain just offering what was the most familiar, most sort of recent awareness or perception of how, life was lifing? And, being able to be like, oh, wait, no, I'm like literally like dancing in place. I'm so excited. I'm talking a mile a minute. I know I speak even faster than this when I'm really excited. And, like noticing all of those things allowed me to say, oh shit, I'm having a totally different day than yesterday. So I wanted to like share these things out as like, I guess we can try to sum it up for some point of like being concise or clear. Like 3 ways, 3 pick-me-ups after feeling let down, or something like that. Of course I had a really cute title written out, but I forgot it since I pressed record. But, looking at that as like first actually allowing yourself to like name, acknowledge, and like honor that you're feeling a letdown, that the letdown has happened. Secondly, being really curious and just asking yourself, if I'm being kind to myself and, I'm not going to then expect myself to, quote, snap out of it, what might just be the very next experience right after this? What's that next stair step that I might be able to access as the letdown is sort of like settling and I'm being able to process that? And then thirdly, noticing and then creating room like for the pause to notice when your energy is starting to shift, when that sort of doom cloud is dissipating. And also perhaps this is like noticing what things around you are providing that shift in how you're doing in that moment. So for me, it was noticing that my husband, actually found a place online that we hadn't heard of and shared that with me. He went out of his way to be like, oh, you and Mercury can eat, these foods. We should go and try this out, right? So it was this feeling of being taken care of. And then also seeing that, we were able to challenge, the sort of, as the train goes by, but like challenge the very like stuck in routine homebody part of our day that can happen easily, where we were out and about and we were about to get food to go. And then we're like, oh wait, no, the restaurant is like fully open and there's space for us and we don't have to be crowded with other people. We could actually eat here in a restaurant, which we don't do often, and how that contributes to having this really exciting, playful day because, again, we were just following what felt good at the moment and acknowledging like, yes, brain, you might say, oh, you always get food to go, or oh, you're still supposed to be sad about your burnt ass beans and rice yesterday. And like just having access to choices that we actually want to make. So at the end of the day, that's like one of the golden sort of threads or linings of how life can be more livable. And that's the ability to have access to choices that you want to make. So, and sharing all of that too, if that practice of the emotional staircase or your emotional staircase is intriguing to you, or you're like, oh shit, you know what? I'm realizing now that I have some things that are feeling like longer term letdowns, and I'm curious on how I can sit with and shift that. I would love to invite you to join the Shit Shifter Society. Yes, technically the doors are closed, right? But that was just because I'm not a marketing engine. I was not going to just chugga along and promote it forever. So our first call isn't for another about 2 weeks because the current enrollees actually were all on vacations or trips in this next week or two. So that was like great. Love that for them. And so there is time before we would start our first call. So it feels okay to still be growing out the cohort because we haven't interacted with each other as a whole group yet. So if you are curious about that and you aren't aware, the Shit Shifter Society is our monthly membership. And so beyond getting, the logistics of like course modules each month and having group coaching and community calls and being able to receive some like sort of inside scoop things and like having access to offerings and products first, really what it is helping support intergenerational cycle breakers actually be able to have more ease, joy, and connection in their day by receiving the support and tools to actually shift those cycles and be able to acknowledge, that you're carrying such a heavy load in deciding to disrupt those cycles of like essentially how adulting was presented to you, and being able to do that in a community and with support, so that way you're actually feeling like there's room to be your full ass self, and that actually is the key or what drives your ability to more sustainably make these shifts and changes and really like celebrate yourself along the way. So that will be open for up until I'd say the first call in about a week or two from when this is airing. So if you have any questions at all, I will gladly connect with you, Instagram, email, whatever the things are. They'll all be in the show notes. And also the link is in my bio for Shit Shifter Society. Bio on Instagram, I guess I should be specific. But I just got back to the Jeep after walking by the water. So I'm going to head back home. So I really appreciate you joining me here. And this was thoughts on 3 ways to have pick-me-ups after you feel let down or something like that. Whatever the clean, polished, cute title is will be what the title is on here. And then we can all just have a moment of reflecting to ourselves like, how close did Lloyd's memory get it or not? And then move the fuck on with our day. So as always, have a razzle-dazzle day. And if that's not accessible, you can put an F on front and have a razzle-dazzle day.